Guys is back, and the San Francisco 49ers are back as well. As we already know, the well-documented three-game losing streak into the bye, but now they're on another streak. 2 wins in a row, and it feels phenomenal. But we're already turning the page because we got a game tomorrow. It's an interesting spot for me and Jason. But we got a game tomorrow, so we're going to talk about both. But you already know what to do. Drop your spicy sourdoughs in the chat and let's cook. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now. Jason Aponte, San Francisco 49ers take down the Bucks. How are we feeling about it?
We're feeling great. Obviously, the team is playing very well, and we're going to get into all of that. But personally, for me to be in the building and get the L's off my back that I had in a row, I believe the last 49ers football game I went to was the NFC Championship game in SoFi. And before that, the one before that was the home opener against the Green Bay Packers with you.
Yep.
So Schneid's over, nightmare's over, monkey off my back. Niners win. I'm in the building. I'm not the problem. I just want to make sure that you know how like
That's the main part. That's the main
right.
part.
You know how you love when players take accountability. Well, I want no accountability for the way the team performs when I'm there. All I know is it's not me. It is not me.
It's not, we've confirmed it's not Jason Aponte, so that's good. That is phenomenal. So what did you think? What did you think of kind of the juice heading into that game? You know, obviously being in attendance, watching everything play out. What was kind of like your overall takeaway of being at that game?
Well, I want to say that going to the game, it really makes it hard to see the intricacies of what's going on. Like some of the things I could point out right away, like the Christian McCaffrey touchdown, I was trying to explain to the person that I was with about like, hey, that little motion just to the left and then having him sprint across the formation is how you spring him open because Devin White has no shot. But you don't notice until you watch the film again that there are two basically rub routes going the other direction just in case Devin White, floats a little bit further back. And those are the little things you really can't see. So I did my post game show and I was telling you I didn't even get a chance to run up with you, right? Like I was just telling you like I just want to get back to my room and get to work and everything. But in my post game show, people were asking about the offensive line. I said I don't really have any strong opinions until I'm able to watch the tape, right? Like
Yep.
until I'm able to sit and watch. And I did that on the plane. So being at the game, I will say this: I do miss some of the finer things that you catch on the broadcast. But I'll tell you this: I know what I've been missing is that fan energy, is the energy of the people. When George Kittle doesn't get the DPI call and everybody's going crazy, everybody's discussing it. Well, is it a call? Is it not? I miss being with the people and actually just being a fan and taking a step back. I think because we want to be largely objective and we want to be taken seriously, whether you agree or not, we want to come from a place of actually studying and trying to get better. It's so good sometimes to just be a fan, to just root for the team and just enjoy all that. And I think that's the part that I miss the most about being at games.
Yeah, you're 100% correct because I'm on the opposite side. Like these last 2 years, I've really made it an effort to like try to go to as many games as I can because it's, right in my backyard. So I go and you're 100% correct. Like watching it in stadium, it's more about energy. It's more about kind of feeding off the energy, all those different types of things. And when you get back into the tape, you're like, okay, this is why this happened. There's a lot, it's harder to kind of break down in real time because you don't have access to the replays. You're not kind of just in your own little bubble watching it or whatever. So when you're live, you're just kind of vibing out. So that's a great point. That's why like they always ask me, Brad, how'd the O line do? I was like,
I don't know.
I have no idea unless it
Right.
was a blatant sack in like, a big time moment. I was like, I have no clue. But I'll tell you once I watch the tape. And I can get first impressions, but Yeah, my impression of that game, obviously, being there as well was, 49er fans are hungry, man. Like, I think that little drought kind of shook a lot of people's, just like it shook me. Like, I was like, what's happening? It
Mhm.
was like it was just a situation where it was like we didn't really felt like unknown territory for at least this season. And so it feels phenomenal that the 49ers got back on track. Obviously, not all good. And let's start there, I guess. Talanoa Hufanga goes down for the year. Just super unfortunate. But Jair Brown, your boy, my boy,
Mhm.
came in, made some plays. What was your initial thoughts of Jair Brown? And what do you see from him moving forward?
One of my preseason predictions was that Jair Brown was going to force his way onto the field. Avery, please. Thank you for that. Um, is that Jair Brown was going to force his way onto the field? Like when I spoke to him, and I spoke to him off the record, a lot of the discussion that he said was being about three safety looks and how they were going to use him. And he's been mature beyond his years, and you can hear everybody after the game speak about that. Kyle Shanahan spoke about it. Steve Wilkes spoke about it. Being ready for this moment, right? I want to make sure I articulate this properly without anyone losing their mind because I want to make sure that I'm not downplaying the loss of Talanoa Hufanga. I am not downplaying the loss of him, but Tig's skill set is very much like Hufanga's. Very much. Fast, downhill, ball hawk, seems to have the ball fall into his hands, and you saw it happen, right? I had someone say, well, Brown's interception was kind of lucky. I say, dude, Hufanga could be on the sideline and there's a tip pass and it balls right into and it falls right into his hands. Like it's
I think all of Huff's interceptions have been tips
off
this
tips,
year.
right? Like it's
Yeah.
so I'm not saying that the defense won't miss a beat because he's obviously a rookie, and you saw on the one play that he missed on the coverage, right? There's
Yeah.
going to be some bumps and bruises, like you saw with Hufanga. But what I am saying is that the actual skill set matches Hufanga's, and there are ways that you're going to see little drop off at times with him. He's wise beyond his years. He's a playmaker. He's a guy just like him who just has a nose for the ball, right? And then what I noticed on the film, and obviously you can't see this in the stadium. Obviously, people are going to talk about, well, is he going to play strong safety, free safety? I feel like that is a free flowing back and forth because he's on the strong safety side, then he flips over to free safety. I think that is, and then he's single high. Like they just move those guys around, right? Like I think he's a little bit more of a chess piece. But watching him in the slot and Mike Evans on a throw there and wiping that out, like I think,
Yeah.
my goodness, man, that's a tall task for the best cornerback against one of the better wide receivers in the league. I would say, um, it's going to have its bumps and bruises. It's going to have its moments for sure because he's a rookie and he's going to be playing in his first extended action. But his skill set lines right up with Huff's so much that there will be moments that the defense does not lose a beat. And this isn't because I had a chance to speak with him. This isn't because of any of that, right? It's looking at his skill set, looking why they drafted him, and then hearing Steve Wilkes and them talk about him after they really pushed for him to get on the field now. And I think at this point, it's okay to be a little bit optimistic, even though you can't replace what Hufanga's done because he's an all pro. Waverly, please.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And right on cue, Gammon says, Abante, Abante, how dare you parent on stream?
Yeah,
Feels like
my
every
fault.
week. No, I'm in the same boat as you. I got the kiddos right in the other room. Um, but to your point, like I am pretty excited about Jair Brown. Obviously, both you and I love the pick. We were both big on him coming out of Penn State. And for the reasons why he's ball hawking safety, like you mentioned, and he comes downhill in a hurry and does a lot of good things
And he's a
on the
little bit
field.
faster than Huff as well, too. Just a little bit faster.
There was one play on tape against the Bucks where I think he was playing, standard safety role at safety depth, and it looked like it was like a button hook on Diamador Lenore on the left side, and he obviously Demo's kind of in what appears to be kind of a soft man coverage, and so he's kind of backpedaling. So Demo has to react to the hook and then drive. And, Jair's probably about 5-10 yards off further of where Diamador is. And Jair just came screaming downhill. He beat Diamador to, I think it was Mike Evans. And I was like, wow, you can just see the burst that he provides. But again, to your point, like, I think he's going to do well. I think he's made of the right stuff. I think that was one of the big takeaways from hearing all the players speak about him. It was one of the big takeaways just watching that Jags sights and sounds that the 49ers posted to their YouTube page. It's like, dang, Jair's talking a lot. For a guy who barely plays, I was like, he's talking a lot. He's high, and it wasn't like forced. It didn't feel like he was just being a rah-rah guy. It's like that just feels like who he is. And that matches what everyone said about him. So I'm excited about it. Obviously, you don't want to lose Huff. Huff's an all-pro. That's a really, really tough task for Jair to fill in and step into those shoes. But we live in a league where it's next man up. That's literally the mentality. So Jair Brown's going to have to step up big. And do you think he'll be able to do that against Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett out there? What do you think? How he's going to fare against those guys coming up tomorrow?
Talk about being thrown into the fire, right? Like this is it's Brad. You're walking out of the stadium and you're excited because the game's over. And then as soon as I realized that the game was over, heartburn starts to set in because I know what the next game is. And it's not because I think the Seattle Seahawks are better than the San Francisco 49ers. I think for many years, I don't even think that was the case. I think it's just PTSD, Pete Carroll with his nonsense and emptying the bag, fake field goals, fake punts, all of that stuff.
Sideline with his monocle.
All of that stuff. I literally started to get anxiety right away. So this is like no normal game. And then on top of it, on Thanksgiving, and we get a chance to give it back. We have a chance to get our lick back right now on their home field. Someone's going to eat turkey on their field. This is talking about like getting thrown into the fire. Jair Brown's got a test in front of him, but he's been in big games before. Rose Bowl MVP. Penn State, it doesn't get bigger than those games at all. Right. Everybody's talking about his level of maturity. If you guys want, you can check out on my channel. Averly, please. If you check out on my channel, you can see the interview that I did with him. He's wise beyond his years, very mature. He's been through a lot. He doesn't take any of it for granted. One of the biggest things that he said in his speech that I feel like was a bar was being humble is not a choice. And I thought that is super impressive for a young man who is 20-something years old, going right into the league. And he is eloquent. He's actually, very nice. Like all of those things don't matter when it comes to football. But I'm just trying to tell you the level of mind state because you're going to need it going into a game that is so high, high impact. And then that stadium and the rivalry and national television. I think Tig is ready for it all, man. And I'm super excited to watch him hoop this week.
When he was talking to the media in the locker room, like kind of talking about his interception, I love when he said, I'm used to getting interceptions. Like he just said it so nonchalantly. He's like, I'm used to getting interceptions. That's not a big deal. Like, and he's just talking about other things. And it's like, yeah, he is. He was a ball hawking safety at Penn State. And that mentality clearly is just a part of who he is. And it's not like, oh, I get lucky or anything like that. So I'm feeling good about Jair. Big shoes to fill, but they went up and traded and got him for a reason. And so far, John Lynch, when it comes to drafting safeties, Talanoa Hufanga was a 5th-round draft pick, and they clearly felt they saw something in Jair. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. Sticking on the defensive side, a lot was made of the defensive struggles. Is the defense back to where we expect it to be?
I just hope that on Wednesday, right now, it's 2:06 Pacific time. I hope Steve Wilks is already camped out on the sideline because clearly that was it. That was just literally it. Like, that's it. Like, wherever Steve Wilks is, don't let him go home. Get him a tent, get him a porta potty. Just keep him on the sideline at this point because that's clearly what's going on. But I will say this. obviously the Ambry Thomas thing is real because in nickel situations, he's the one that's outside, Lenoir's inside. Lenoir had his best game of the season this week. I felt he was incredible in this game. And then Brad, 38 pressures by the defensive line, 38. I mean, it almost felt like a fake stat when you look it up. 38 pressures. Eric Armstead had 12. And then it's just like
He was destroying Cody Mauch. Oh my god.
I don't understand how that's even possible. But when you clean up the missed tackles, you clean up the penalties, the secondary is actually covering a little bit. I would say, and I want you to tell me to shut up if I'm wrong here. I would say right now, Charvarius Ward is being picked on a little. Like, doesn't it seem like guys are going out of their way to throw the football at him? And it felt like, and last year nobody wanted to throw the football at him. Right? Like, it's weird. I don't know. Again, week to week personnel based, offensive coordinators based, right? Things are going to change, right? Like how you come out. But man, I can't help but look at like they're not scared to throw at Charvarius anymore, right? And Lenoir only gets 3 targets thrown at him. I think he gave up 14 yards. Ambry wasn't really like looked at like that much. Gibson had a really good game. It's the Ward thing now that's kind of it's not troubling. It's just strange. I never would have thought we were seeing a time where they're going to go after Mooney. And I think they're going after him for 2 reasons. One, they feel that if they have an advantage with guys who can make a catch. Who was it? Trey Palmer made that catch over him. Was it 18?
The one where they were going towards the sideline,
right? And he jumped up. Yeah, it was an incredible catch. Yeah, that was Trey Palmer. I didn't know if Mooney was in coverage. That's why I was trying to stay away from that. I think they're gonna try to throw those jump balls at him like that, like to see because Amari did it. Trey Palmer did it. It's those moments where they're just like, hey, man, if we're going to get a 50-50 ball, let's try to throw it his way. You just got to hope that Ward turns that around because Ward was very good against DK all last year. The 2 times they faced, obviously in the postseason game, you saw the long pass, but that wasn't the case in the regular season. So I think that's kind of weird, right? Like, are you watching that on the film? Are you seeing the same thing?
No, I see the same thing. Just like they threw up, I think the one where he did break it up, he got that PBU on the right side of the field, one-on-one coverage. Baker just turned and let it loose. I think part of it too, and I saw it right when Michael said it in the chat as well. I think a part of it has to do with in one-on-one situations, Mooney's been getting penalized with either holdings or DPIs.
And I think it's that they're waiting for a penalty. Yeah.
So it's like throw it process.
Throw it, see if he gets a penalty, throw it to see if you get a catch. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, but I do think he held up pretty well for the most part. But it's definitely a situation where they're going to test him, right? They're going to try to take their shots. They tried testing Ambry Thomas on that deep ball to Mike Evans. Ambry did a phenomenal job actually making sure he stacked Evans and then slowed him down. And I was like, okay, Ambry.
Confidence is growing.
I mean, obviously, Ambry gave up the touchdown in the end zone. But I did have a question on what Gip was doing. Gip just absolutely bit on something like he thought White was going to go out into the flat, but it wasn't. White just literally stopped. And so I wonder if there was a miscommunication between Ambry maybe thinking he had inside help, which is why he gave off that leverage. So, again, I'm not in that film room. I don't know what was happening.
And I saw that too. That's the stuff, right? Like when we talk about like, oh, he gave this up. Like it's not black and white all the time, right? Like, and it's okay to say like what you said, right? Like, yeah, he's responsible for the touchdown in the box score, but there possibly was something, and we don't know how it's being coached. We just don't know.
Yeah. So, but for the most part, I was pretty impressed by all the DBs for the most part. I know. Well, do you know how many catches Ward gave up? Because I remember there was one against the sideline to Mike Evans where he was super close on breaking it up. It was literally like he had his hand here and the ball went right underneath. He had that one PBU against the sideline on that deep ball. Can't remember. He did also have 8 tackles. One of the things that stood out to me about Charvarius was, I think on the first or second play of the game, he's in there making tackles at the line of scrimmage. And I'm like, okay, Charvarius.
So Charvarius Ward was targeted 11 times, gave up 7 catches for a nice amount of yards of 69. and only one yard after catch. So the tackles is true. And he had 2 PBUs. He gave up an 81.3 passer rating. So 11 targets, right?
Mhm.
The next closest is Dre Greenlaw, who's a linebacker. And then, I don't trust PFF with the way that they say that they targeted Greenlaw because Greenlaw's not in coverage. Greenlaw just might be the closest defender and they've got to ding somebody. Right. So it's not like they're like targeting Greenlaw. And then Warner is right behind him with 6. And then you see Ambry Thomas 5. So let's just do secondary, right? Because I want to toss those out. I want to toss both of those out because the way that PFF does it is like they're looking for the nearest defender, and Greenlaw might just be in a zone, and the ball's caught behind him on a layered throw, and they're like, "Oh, it's on Greenlaw," and it's just like
Right.
that blows my mind that you could even say that was like his target. But 11 for Mooney, and let's see, Gibson 4, Ambry 5, and Lenore 3. So yeah, like when you look at that, you've got 11, 16, 16, 20, 23. 23 targets on the secondary. 11 of those go to Charvarius Ward. That's a trend, and that's been happening.
That's a
Right?
lot
Like
of targets.
that's a lot of targets.
Lot of
That's
targets.
more than half, right? Like
Yeah.
basically at this point, right? Like you're I mean, I'm not good at math, but 11 out of 23 on one guy, that means a lot. And again, right, like the safety stuff, I think it's the same thing. Like when you're kind of looking at who's targeted, it's about who's closest. So it's not like they're throwing it at Gibson. Gibson's not going to be in coverage. Tig was in coverage, so one of his two targets was actually when Mike Evans was there. So yeah.
So I still I think the point that we're kind of getting to is I think the secondary is still a bit of a work in progress with how they're, shifting specific lineups based on looks and how they're executing overall. But to your point, Diamador has been playing pretty well these last couple games. Charvarius, I thought, has been playing well too. But again, you don't want to give up that many catches, but it's a lot of targets. So it's going to happen. Bend, don't break. But I feel really good about the front 7. I feel like the front 7 is exactly where you need it to be with the addition of Chase Young. What are you seeing from the defensive line and linebackers and how they're playing off each other and playing together?
Well, my goodness, man. Fred Warner, what a game. He finishes with the highest pass rushing grade, 91.6. He actually today, for our fantasy football players, stat corrections came down. Fred Warner was stripped of half a sack, and Nick Bosa was credited with half a more sack. So Nick Bosa ends with 2.5 sacks on Sunday as well too. So that helps a lot. Eric Armstead was incredible, but Chase Young was absolutely responsible for one of his sacks, and I saw that in the stadium. I watched 92 walk Tristan Wirfs down all the way back into the pocket. So Baker
That's
steps
the
up
one where Baker ran right into Eric.
yeah, and Eric cleans it up, right? Like again, this is the age-old thing. Pressures and sacks. You guys wanted sacks, but Eric Armstead cleaned up one that was based on Chase Young absolutely dominating one of the best left tackles in the league, Tristan Wirfs, right?
And with pure outside rush, pure
Right.
speed.
It
Wasn't
was
anything
just
fancy.
Wirfs couldn't do anything with it. Like he's just coming at him and he's just backing up. Like it wasn't like he beat him like with a rip move, anything. There was no engagement. They literally didn't meet until they were back at the end of the pocket. And then by that time, Baker steps up and Eric Armstead's there. You could see it. And that's why, not only because I'm broke, I have to sit up high. I love watching the game from up high because you can see the plays develop and you can see it happen. So in that moment, I was like, okay, I saw that happen. But Nick Bosa gets 2.5 in this one. Javon Hargrave, 4 total pressures, 3 hurries, a quarterback hit. This front 7, man, is looking like exactly what we thought they would. And now Randy Gregory has completely fallen, I guess, out of favor at this point. Seven pass rush attempts, 12 for Cleveland Ferrell. They start the game with Cleveland, though, in base. Did you notice that Cleveland's out there first and it's not Chase Young?
They like Cleveland a lot. And
They
Cleveland,
do.
he's a good run defender. He's really good. He just doesn't get home that often. Like he doesn't complete the sack, but he does a good job. Like he sets the edge. I think Cleveland is a solid player, but they needed a player like Chase
Yeah.
Young to take them over the top. And like the perfect play is that one that you talked about where Chase Young beats Tristan Wirfs, like you said, one of the best young tackles in the NFL, with straight up pure speed outside rush. He didn't hit him really with a move. He just straight up outside rush, cut off his angle at the depth of the quarterback, and you see Baker as he turns around in the play action, like look out of the corner of his eyes as he hits his hitch foot, and he's like, "Oh crap, got to step up." And that was actually the one where Eric swam two guys on his way. I posted that one clip of Mock where he looks like he's surfing because he beats him so fast. But that's the difference, I think, with this defensive line is it's a full unit now when you have Chase and Bosa on the other side, and then you put Eric and Hargrave in the middle. It's so hard to stop, especially in pass rushing situations. Hargrave is so dominant with his like Euro step swipe. Like it is so hard to stop. And I can speak from experience of being an interior offensive lineman. When you deal with someone that's that quick, first off, quick off the ball, and then he sets you up with an inside move and then swipes and uses your momentum against you to sideswipe you and then win with leverage. It's his go-to move, and he wins almost every time for that reason, because he gets the offensive lineman going one way and then uses their momentum against him to counter, and then he gets you on the leverage and cuts the corner. And this defensive line is going to be a problem moving forward, and it's really going to help the back end. And I'm seeing the benefit for the linebackers already. Like watching Fred fill, watching Dre fill, it's so much different than it was, like, let's say against the Browns, like when they couldn't stop a nosebleed. Like it just looks completely different. So I'm really excited. Even guys like Kinlaw were stepping up. Kinlaw made like 2 or 3 really nice run stuffs. Yep. I'm good on this front seven. I think the front seven is a lock now with Chase Young in the mix. Randy Gregory being the third pass rusher, perfect. That is the perfect spot for him. Cleveland being able to come in on base downs and spell, perfect spot for him. So I feel great. I feel great with the second line of defense on our D line. So front seven, I'm good. It looks like we're still kind of massaging some things out with the secondary, and obviously Jair Brown is going to change things a little bit. So we'll see how they respond. But so far, feel pretty darn good about the defense.
That's what I was going to ask you. No, that's what I was going to ask you is the whole like, oh, he started the game. It's just like, hey, that's just a base formation, and it seems like Chase, Bosa, Hargrave, Armstead is going to be their turbo package. And it's just again like, oh well, he's not there on first down. That doesn't mean much in terms of what's more likely in the first play of the game, a run or a pass, especially if you're the Tampa Bay Bucks, right? Like,
sure.
Yeah, right. So it was just funny to point out that like he's there, but you don't have to really surmise much from it because it is just a base down formation, and that's not as important as you think it is, especially when you get into the throws of a game and you start to see, hey, this is what they're doing in certain downs and distances. This is what they're looking at. Obviously, obvious passing downs is when you're going to see that turbo package. But they're definitely just right now trying to work everybody in and trying to fit everybody in. And it's just this defensive line right now, it feels like now it's really kicking into gear, and it couldn't happen at a better time. It really could not, especially after you just watched what happened in Philadelphia with on Monday Night Football with how Chris Jones was dominant.
Chris Jones was a problem. Hassan Reddick coming screaming off the edge, even on the other side, man. That's just, again, pass rushers, trench play, good offensive line play, good defensive line play changes a lot of things. I want to get to a couple of super chats so we get these out the way. Whoever Seahawks quarterback, he will get Drogo from behind.
This is a Game of Thrones reference, but this is a family show, so I don't want to get into it. But Beast Mode Gaming, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Because you threw that little piece on it, I can connect.
It's a family show. It's a family show.
Gammon says, Brad, put on your Shanahan hat and explain why we should keep BA. Jason, put on your Wilkes hat and explain why you should keep Young. Okay,
you go first.
since I am Kyle Shanahan, you do the better Shanahan impression though.
But
I'll
it's
give
all
you
right.
that.
Just be Shanahan.
I'm not going to try to do it. I mean, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, my argument to Steve Wilks is right now, Brandon Ayuk is a prototypical number one wide receiver. And because of that, you've seen him unlocked with the quarterback, Brock Purdy, at the helm because of Brock's ability and willingness to throw the ball deep and basically just push the ball downfield. And when you look at this 49ers offense's bread and butter, they live in the intermediate parts of the field. And that's always been the case. But more so than ever, we're looking at deep intermediate. We're looking at it feels like these slant routes have been pushed out about 10 to 15 yards than what we saw with Jimmy Garoppolo. And it's posing a ton of problems for these defenses. It's changing how they play and defend the passing game for the San Francisco 49ers. As Kyle Shanahan, this is how Kyle would say it. As the best football brain in the entire world, I need BA in my offense because he opens up everything for everyone else. And so with BA on the field, everything is open, whether it's screen, whether it's end around, whether it's deep comebacks, short comebacks, in breaking routes at every single level of the field. The entire field is my oyster with Brandon Ayuk there. And for my offense to continue to have this success, I need someone who can challenge deep. And yes, it's great to have Debo and Christian McCaffrey to make things crazy at the line of scrimmage, but I need someone who can stretch the field. And that's why we got to keep BA.
And 100%, he's the one that can create separation on his own. Like, there are times where Shanahan can scheme against it, but he creates separation on his own. You need a guy like that. That is something that's invaluable. There are plenty of players who can get open because of scheme, because of matchup, because of the way that you like run a rub route.
Yeah.
Put BA on an island. I'll take my chances 10 out of 10 times twice on Sunday. So just to put a ball on that. But with Wilks, all right, so we literally just talked about a base down package in which Cleveland Farrell's out there, right? And you're stuffing the run. But the 49ers have been pining for this turbo package that they had since 2019, and they've tried in many ways. And in many ways, they found ways to be successful, right? Like finding Arden Key, finding Charles Omenihu, like finding these guys. But Chase Young is different. Chase Young isn't somebody who people disregarded because they hadn't been successful. He's 24, 25 years old.
24.
24. On the edge, it's invaluable to have that amount of talent on this line, right? And you understand that Eric Armstead's contract is harder and harder to move on from because of, the way they restructured it, everything like that. Okay. But I do think that if I'm Steve Wilks, I'm saying I want him here. But I do think that Chase Young realizes that he needs to put together 2 full seasons before he can hit the market for what he's really owed. Think about this. If he plays on the tag next year in his year 25 year and balls out for the San Francisco 49ers, and if you're the 49ers, you absolutely tag him. You don't even think twice about it. Like, you absolutely have to tag him, and you think about that. You kick the can down the road. But think about being 26 years old and being probably the most highly sought after edge rusher after you've put two full years of film down. I think it absolutely makes sense that Chase Young is going to be here, and I think that's exactly why he will be here. And the 49ers would be silly to let him just walk away and, we'll take our comp pick. No, you tag that man, you figure out the rest, and then you figure out how you get him under salary the year after that, which I don't know. Smarter people are in charge of that. That's why they are who they are. And I don't really jump into those conversations when it comes to salary cap.
Yeah, and since I'm Kyle Shanahan in this scenario, I'm calling Parag Marathe right now and telling him, you better clear the books and get this figured out so we can keep both Brandon Ayuk and Chase Young. Just speaking of Brandon Ayuk, and we'll stick right there. I mean, BA goes crazy. He led the league in receiving yards in Week 11. He is just absolute. He's budding at the perfect time, and there's still even another gear to his game. I really do believe it. I don't even think we're like scratching at the surface of what Brandon Ayuk is capable of, and a lot of this has to do with his connection with Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is pushing the ball downfield, and they have a really, really strong connection that dates back to training camp. And that's another reason why I think you got to keep BA because, like, yes, we've seen Brock Purdy have success. I think back to Thursday Night Football against the New York Giants, right? He finds Ronnie Bell in the corner of the end zone for a touchdown. He finds Deebo Samuel deep on a back shoulder. He's able to find success still in that scenario, but I would not like to see Brock and Ayuk not on the same team for years to come. They just look so good together.
I wanted to kind of talk about that because you brought up the deep passes, and I wanted to talk about the way Brock has been throwing the football this year. And not to change the subject on Brandon Ayuk. I think obviously you have to bring him back because he's incredible. But I did notice something when I was going through some of the numbers. So right now, Brock Purdy has 130 more dropbacks than he had last season. 130, right? And his touchdown percentage is now 6.5. Last year was 7.6, but his interception rate is 1.8. Last year was 2.4. You would suspect that those numbers would kind of flip with more dropbacks, right? Okay. But when you're looking at the deep throws, in 2022, he threw 12 deep passes and completed 4. This season, he's thrown 24 and completed 15. And I think what's interesting is remember the narrative about where Brock likes to throw the ball. He can't throw this side, he can't throw that side. Brad, do you remember that?
Say that one more time.
Brock can only throw to this side of the field. He can't throw to that side of the field, right? Like it's only right. Like
Yes,
okay,
yes, 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 yes.
okay. So last season, the 12 throws, 33% of them went to the left, 50% went to the middle of the field, 17 went right. Okay. Now the middle of the field is always going to be the majority because that's where he likes to operate, right? 46% are in the middle of the field, 17% to the left, 38% to the right. Sounds like people jumped out the window when it came to where the football is going, right? Like he can't throw right, force him left so he can. All right, well, it's almost like a guy is like getting better.
Wait,
But I think
he's getting better.
it's almost like a guy's getting experience and he's doing a little bit better. And the
Is how
numbers kind
football
of
works?
yeah. I mean,
I thought you're
sometimes
supposed to be.
you're supposed to get
Patrick
worse when
Mahomes
when you
right
play
after.
more. Yeah, you're supposed to get worse when you
Okay.
play more. Yeah.
Makes sense now.
Um,
Makes sense.
but I think you were bang on when you said that Brock Purdy is really unlocking Brandon Ayuk because we all saw it. We all knew. Like we all knew what was going on. We all knew that Brandon Ayuk was getting himself open. Just we wouldn't see the throws. We wouldn't get them right. Now those throws are
Yeah.
being hit, and that's because of Brock Purdy. So I think that's really what is like what you were super right on about. Okay.
Nope. We lose you.
No, I'm done.
Oh, sorry. I was getting us some B-roll to play in the background while we wax poetic on BA and Brock Purdy out here slinging it against the Bucks defense. But the point being is with the kind of BA conversation, I think BA is obviously playing himself into a wide receiver one type contract. I mean, but the thing is, it's like, yeah, can BA do this in another system, in another scheme with another quarterback? Obviously, if he finds himself on the Chiefs, he finds himself anywhere else, obviously, BA is going to be able to translate that success. But the question becomes, like, how much does Brock need BA? Like for plays like this down the field where you get one-on-one coverage and you just know your guy is going to win and you can just throw it up and just have that confidence that he's going to be able to go and get it. So it's like I think BA is perfect for this offense. I think he's the deep threat that the 49ers need. He's very willing to go across the middle of the field and make plays, just like Debo is, as you see right here. But man, I I hope the 49ers can find a way to keep BA. Obviously, that talk for me right now is a little bit premature just because I don't want to focus on something that will probably dominate the part of the offseason conversation. But the conversation for play on the field this year is that Brock Purdy and Brandon Ayuk go together like peanut butter and jelly. Whatever combination, spaghetti and meatball, they need to be together for this run throughout this season because there's a level of trust there. There's a level of understanding with timing, and like their timing is impeccable. It's been absolutely phenomenal to watch, especially on the in breaking routes over the middle, where you've seen Purdy, he's layering it over linebackers, and they just play so well together. So I only see that connection growing and getting better as the season progresses because let's face it, they haven't played. Well, technically, have they played a full season of games? I think so. But I know BA's been hurt. I know, so they're around there.
Yeah.
But I think they'll continue to grow together. And what we saw against the Bucks, again, they can do so much more. Even, you get a lot of yards on that 76-yarder, right? The deep one.
Mhm.
But I just think there's so much more opportunity for them to even do more damage. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the future, but I can only speak for right now that Brandon Ayuk is the San Francisco 49ers number one wide receiver. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. And he plays a very, very integral role on this team's success, in my opinion.
And all right, I guess this is the best place to just turn it to Brock Purdy at this point. Look, 42 minutes in, and we haven't even really gotten into
They're,
the
they're
quarterback.
starting to catch on to us that we're push the quarterback talk all the way to the back.
All right, so I love all those clips, and everybody is going to fawn over the long throw, which I was in the stadium for. I was able to watch, was incredible. I think that's the best throw that I've seen from a 49ers quarterback. Dare I say, since like a guy like number 8, maybe number 7 in the NFC Championship game, that jump throw, like it's up there.
Yeah.
And you watch the tape, and the throws that impressed me the most look routine.
Yeah.
All right. So there's a throw to Brandon Ayuk, which is like a 15-yard game, which seems modest. And Brock throws it before he realizes Ayuk is going to be open. And the anticipation that he throws, like, I trust my guy. I'm going to put it in a spot where I know he's going to get it, and he lets it go before he's even out of his, like, he's still engaged with the cornerback. And it's throws like that I think people just look at it like, oh, well, whatever. That was like a 15-yard catch. That really shows you more than other throws. The layered throws, like you showed in there, those are beautiful as well too, right? Having the touch to drop it in behind a linebacker, in front of a safety, and just trusting your guy to go get it. I mean, even the throw to Kittle that wasn't called for DPI, which was, my goodness, man, clear DPI when you watch it over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah. There was 2 penalties. He also Brock Purdy got hit low on that play. Should have been,
Oh wow, I didn't even notice that.
By the rules, the Tom Brady rule should have been in effect. So there's 2 penalties that were missed on that one.
So obviously, perfect passer rating. The only other quarterback was some Montana guy. He was pretty all right.
This guy?
He was all right. Yeah, he's all right.
And
You know what's funny is Guy Haberman posted a picture today of Joe Montana's stat line before the catch. And the 49ers turned the ball over not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, not 5 times, 6 times in that game before he threw the catch. Yeah, 6 turnovers in that game. I did not either. He threw 3 interceptions in that game. He threw
Oh, could
three
you
interceptions.
imagine?
And that's exactly. So I said to Guy, I'm like, so I said to Guy, I was like, imagine if that was Brock Purdy and we had Twitter at the time.
You would have
It's just
content creators going ballistic.
it's just so funny how, like, again, 1981. I'm old, but I ain't that old. Don't even try to play me like that. Like, it's that is completely lost in the discussion because of the last play, right? And I think,
Yeah.
again, the bottom line is right now, Brock Purdy, that guy that you've been watching the last 2 weeks, that's the guy that largely has been playing quarterback for the 49ers this entire season. You had your 3-game bumpy stretch, and even that those 3 games, in those 3 games, it wasn't all 3 games that he was, looking crazy. It was moments.
Couple situations. Yeah.
Right. So, like, everything deserves its context, right? I wanted to go through his game logs because it's literally fascinating to me, like, how Brock Purdy gets perceived. And I just want to go through some of these numbers real quick. First of all, Brock Purdy never threw for 300 yards at all last season. He's got 3 already this year, and there's still games to play. Okay. He has, this is ridiculous. He has 4 games over a quarterback rating of 130. Against Arizona, 134.6. Against Dallas, 144.4. Jacksonville, 148.9. And then obviously your perfect passer rating this past season, right? Okay. Touchdowns to interceptions. 20-0-0-2-0-1-0-4-0 18-5 is where you're at right now. Yards per attempt, 9.7. Completion percentage is now up to a whopping 70.2. Brad,
Leads the league in both categories, right?
Brad, I want to say this. Anybody who's led the league in QBR the last 5 years has been the MVP.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Brock Purdy leads the league in QBR. Now, I want to preface that by saying this. I don't think that right now, through this time, that Brock Purdy should win the MVP, but there's no problem with speaking about it.
I agree.
There's no problem. There's no problem with the conversation. I'm actually of a mind, and I'm not looking at the comments, and I'm sure they're going to tear me to shreds for saying this, but it's fine. I'm not looking at it, and I'm just going to get my take off. I'm of the mind that this might be the year that the MVP is not a quarterback.
No.
The MVP might be number 10 in Miami. It might be.
Because of the downplay of Jalen and Patty not having any receivers who will catch the ball for him.
Oh, thanks a lot, Chiefs.
Thanks a lot, MVS.
No, not just him. Thanks a lot, MVS. Thanks a lot, Kelsey. Thanks a lot, Watson. None of those guys caught passes. All you had to, everybody sold. It makes me feel way better about this game with Philly in 2 weeks. It makes me feel off a mini bye. Like, all the 49ers have to do is execute against the Eagles. But
yeah,
I am not upset with anybody who wants to talk about Purdy in the MVP conversation. Would I give him the MVP? I personally wouldn't. I think right now, through we're in 11 weeks right now. We're going to week 12.
Week 12 right now.
Right. I believe Tyreek Hill is the most valuable player in the NFL right now. And I don't think you have Tyreek Hill's on pace for like 2,000 receiving yards.
Yeah, he's going crazy.
Like, and again, whatever you want to say about, like, oh, Miami can't beat good teams. Fine. Like, I get it. That you're talking about the team. I'm talking about the guy who elevates his team and literally is a problem every single week. Tyreek Hill's been the best player in football through this time.
He fits so well with McDaniel as well. Like,
thanks
just
a lot,
totally
Mike. Appreciate you.
Totally using him to the best of his abilities.
But he's using all of them, right? Like, so I despise when people are like, oh, Mike was a genius. Yeah. Give Kyle Tyreek and Waddle and Mostert and Achane, all those guys. Give him all those guys and watch him be able to manipulate the same way. Like, Mike knows what he's doing in terms of, putting guys in position to win. But come on, man, you're discounting the fact that the personnel is so fast, and that's how they exactly wanted to build things, right? Like, who saw Mostert first? Was it Mike or was it Kyle? right? Like, Mike took Mostert from Cobb. Either way, about Purdy. Right now, Brock Purdy is playing some of the best football that anybody has seen from a 49ers quarterback in a long time. I know you guys love Jimmy. In 2019, I know you guys loved, Cap. I love Cap. I felt like he was doing things that, was going to transcend the
I thought he was
league and
gonna.
just
I was just gonna say the
yeah,
same
it's
thing. I thought he was
just
gonna change
change the
league.
league. Yeah, right. Like I understand that, but Brock's doing it from the pocket.
Yeah.
Brock's doing it throwing the football, and Brock's doing it with throws that we wish Jimmy could hit. We wish Cap would have learned to do. And the only guy who was really making those throws besides those guys was like Steve Young. And I'm not trying to leave Jeff Garcia out of it. Jeff Garcia was fine.
He's the forgotten one. He gets
Jeff
Garcia. A lot.
Jeff Garcia's fine. But
Jeff Garcia had Terrell Owens, Jason. So
all right. So we're blaming the playmakers.
Yes, we're blaming the playmakers. It's Garrison Hurst. It's Terrell Owens.
Either way, man. Either way, Brad. It's time to stop talking about the playmakers and everything because there's been many quarterbacks who have had these playmakers, had the system, and they just haven't been able to elevate this way. Man, Brock Purdy's playing phenomenal football, and you guys should be excited. I understand exactly why you're excited. I'm excited. It's a lot of fun to watch. It's crazy to know that the ball leaves the screen, and you're not worried what's going to happen on the back end. It's insane. Like we've been held hostage almost like for 3 years with that.
What's that? And again, I really don't want it to come across as Jimmy slander, just because, Jimmy did do some great things for us, and there were some great moments, and I appreciate his time with the 49ers. But at the same time, watching Brock Purdy, you're like, what's that syndrome when you're like held hostage?
Stockholm syndrome. Yeah, when you love your quarterback, you love your captor.
He was our quarterback. We had nothing else, and it was like, please, Jimmy, please be what we hope you to be. Right. And as much as we would either see glimpses or we would see a couple stretches, it would always fall back to earth and kind of crumble in on itself. And then when you see Brock Purdy out here, it's like, oh, this is what a quarterback looks like. And that's not a shot at Jimmy, but like Jimmy was just so robotic. He was so robotic. First read, if it's not there, like I'm ripping it, even if the linebacker's right there. Like he's just like,
this was the read. This was the read. This is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, with Brock immediately comes in. And he's manipulating linebackers with his eyes. I'm like, Jimmy never does that. Why is Brock doing that? He's a rookie. I was like, in his first game, he was just manipulating with his eyes. And it's just like, that's high level stuff. Yeah. Steve Young called him an elite processor. And wait, we don't throw around the E word lightly, especially when talking about a young quarterback like Brock Purdy. But I can't sit here and say I disagree with it. When you see the eye manipulation, you see holding safeties to one side of the field, creating spacing for your own guys.
But Brad,
and knowing where to go, and then also working through reads when it's not open, he's fantastic at that.
But Brad, they were supposed to have figured him out. All they had to do was get a little film. That's it, Brad. All it took was just like, hey, he's gonna put some things on film. We got it.
That's
run
the most laziest narrative, like the laziest.
Hold on, Brad.
Just wait till they get film on him.
Just run cover one man robber. Just run that, and you'll be fine. Just run press man one robber. You're fine.
All game. It's gonna be fine. He won't be able to go deep at all on him.
I just love the people that throw stuff around that have no idea the concept of what the defense is and what that actually entails. It's just because
what the goal of the quarterback and what he's trying to execute,
or what the goal of the defense is at that moment, and it's just you using buzzwords to sound like, hey man, we're just gonna run cover one man robber. That's how you beat Brock Purdy. Are you insane? Are you dumb? You think Kyle Shanahan's gonna watch you sit in one formation the entire time and say, man, I have no answers. Oh my goodness, I don't know what we're gonna do. Good God. It's insane the lengths that people go through to like it's all right. This is the way I'm gonna put it. It's easier to bet against the last pick in the draft because you've never seen anybody do what he's doing and you have no precedent and say he's eventually going to have this happen than it is to say, hey, I was wrong. And guess who was wrong?
Great point. Dude, that's a fire point. Just say it one more time, just so people in the back could hear it, because I think that is a phenomenal point. It's easier to what?
It's easier to root against and bet against the last pick in the draft because you've never seen it and actually find ways to jump through hoops and say, well, it's the playmakers, well, it's the play caller, well, it's the easy throws, than it is to say, you know what? I got it wrong. And I got it wrong when I came out and I said, you know what I said early on. But would you prefer someone who is just rigid and trying to find a way to be right, then stands up and says, I was wrong, and now is appreciating what is there in front of you? And to be fair, nobody could have seen this coming. Nobody, because it never happened. It never.
The 49ers.
Right, it never
Why they
happened.
took him in the last pick.
So it's funny to me to see people grandstand on both sides, right? Oh my God, I knew. Relax. If you knew, then like everybody else didn't know. Like this is almost like those 1 in a million things. Kurt Warner got a movie made that was terribly made. Also, by the way, it was really garbage. But Brock Purdy's on his way to getting a movie made if he continues in this way. So when players get movies made about them, that doesn't mean it was something that everybody saw. That means it was something nobody saw. Like that's the difference. Like, that's a complete difference. But you have to be able to look at things objectively, regardless of your prior evaluations, and say, my goodness, this young man is playing great football. Holy cow, he is lighting up this offense in a way that Kyle Shanahan has been trying to find a guy to light up. And he found him at the back of the draft. I saw a clip. I think it was Larry Krueger put it out. He was dealing with some Seattle Seahawks guy. I guess like an insider.
Mm-hmm.
And the Seattle Seahawks insider lit up all the 49er fans who are against Brock Purdy or are still skeptical. Oh my, it was so good. It was so good. It was so good. He was like, I'd rather have Brock Purdy for the money that he's making than $25 million for Geno Smith. And like that, like, I think that's the other thing that we lose in this equation, Brad, is the money equation. We lose the fact that Brock Purdy's you're getting this a level of play from the quarterback who's like lifting your offense, and he's not even part of your 53-man cap hit. That is insane, and that's the only reason that nobody's talking about how you whiffed on the number 3 pick. Like nobody cares about that now at this point at all because Brock Purdy has done it. That's it. I'm done. I don't want to talk about it anymore, man. You have to admit that Brock Purdy's playing well. If you don't, I don't know what's going on, bro. I don't know what's going on.
I like it. I'm not gonna lie. Because the reason why I like it is because I feel very confident that Brock Purdy is a good quarterback. That's why I wanted you to repeat your point at the beginning, because I think there's a lot of truth to that. It's so much easier to bet against someone who's never done anything like they've done before and expecting the floor to fall out than saying, I'm actually betting that he's going to do something that nobody's
ever seen.
No one's ever done this. Like, obviously, we've seen undrafted free agents. You mentioned Kirk going from bagging groceries to the CFL to the Euro League or whatever, and then winning MVP in a Super Bowl. Like, that's crazy. We haven't seen anything like that since Kurt Warner. Now, we've seen great stories. Like, we've seen undrafted free agents come in, whether wide receivers, running backs, list any position, and have Hall of Fame style careers. But it's the Mr. Irrelevant thing. It's again, like, just all of it. All the being a San Francisco 49ers quarterback, just having Jimmy before, how he got into the game, the Trey Lance situation. It's just like the UCL surgery, the winning streak, the NFC champ. Like, it's a movie. Brock Purdy's career up until this point is a legit movie. And I think that's why people have a hard time with it, because it's not reality to them. We're waiting for the other shoe to drop. We're waiting for him to come back to reality. And I think that's a really bad place to be, because eventually what I've seen from Brock is that he's going to do this. I think if there's anything you can say about Brock is he's consistent. And that is one of the most important traits about being a football player. And people don't wrap their head around that, because they want to see the big throws, they want to see the big plays, they want to see the highlights. But if you have a highlight and then you make 4 boneheaded plays that cost you the game, that doesn't matter. The biggest thing is about being consistent. And the thing with consistent people is they improve because they rep what they do so often that they sleepwalk through it, that they master it, and then they continue to develop upon that and then learn new skills and then rinse, wash, and repeat. They just keep improving because they're consistently getting better and working at their craft. That's who Brock Purdy is. So I would strongly suggest, and I don't care what you want to do, I really don't. If like I said at the beginning of this, I like it because it makes for kind of fun back and forth. It's perfect 49ers debate, like, and gets us content, gets us riled up when Nick Wright's out here banging his chest. Oh, Baker would be a better quarterback,
Like, Nick Wright would have said that Joe Montana needs to be benched halfway through the catch game.
So it's like it's perfect for discourse, right? But it's like, man, if you just take a step back and remove yourself from that dynamic and you just watch and you just evaluate, your eyes should tell you exactly what you need to see. Like, it's not that hard. And then when you start to add on all the statistical anomalies that he is putting on top of just his flat out performance on the field, that should also then go and further. Like, that's why I'm not a big stat guy. And that's why I love when you start throwing out numbers, because I'm pretty much 100% film. And so when
you and Rich,
watch the tape, man.
Watch the tape, man.
So when someone throws in stats that are ranked,
right,
I'm like, I can quantify it globally a little bit better with tape, because I'm so like zoned in on Brock and the 49ers that when you're like, well, he's leading the league in like 15 statistical categories. Historically, he's doing things that we've never seen. Then that's where you start to be like, okay, so what I'm seeing on tape, it
matches,
it tracks,
matches
the numbers.
Yes.
And it's like, that's right, the perfect world of analyzing football, taking film, using stats, combining them together to paint the full picture. Right. And the full picture is Brock Purdy's a good quarterback, and he's only going to continue to improve. And I think that's the part where people have a hard time quantifying that Brock is going to get better.
Right. And it just pisses me off to hear somebody who, like, I respect because he played so well in the league, and I feel like I thought he watched the games, to hear Shannon Sharpe say that Brandon Ayuk's touchdown was yak, when that I was just like, come on, man. Like, I was like, dude, it's an NFL highlight that they've been posting all over their social media. You didn't even have to watch the game to know that ball was thrown like down the field to him. It's again, statistics should back up what you see on film. Statistics should not be used to disprove things that you see on film. And I think that's kind of where we were with the Jimmy Garoppolo discourse. And again, I don't want to keep talking about Jimmy, but the only thing I can do is compare, right? I've got an ex, I've got a new girlfriend.
I find myself in the same boat all the
time. Like, I've got an ex, I've got a new girlfriend. My new girlfriend does this. My ex used to do this. It's going to be a discussion, right? Like, it's not like we're trying to pick on Jimmy Garoppolo, but he is the high point of the Kyle Shanahan time that he was here. So it's always going to be a discussion.
He's the bar. So we're working around the bar.
Right. So it's not me like picking on him. It's just like, who else am I supposed to compare him to? Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard? No, I'm not going to do that. But for me, it's just frustrating to know that when you look at the numbers and you bear them out and you're looking at 9.1 per throw and you're looking at, 18.5, everybody's just saying, well, oh my God, that's the playmakers. My God, man, like, all you have to do is you can casually watch the tape. You can casually watch it. You don't have to watch it and know what's going on. You can casually watch it and see the throws. You can see the throws layered. You can see them down the field. You can see good decisions. I think And I still think for 100% this, Brock still has things to learn. And this is a question I want to ask you, because when I was watching, the sacks that happened in this game were with free runners. So what I want to ask you is, who's sliding the protection what way? Who's in charge of that? Is it Brendel? Is Purdy involved in that, like, at all? Because there's times where guys needed to slide one more guy over, right? Like, one more guy over. You take this guy, you take this guy, and there shouldn't be a guy who's running right. Like, Yaya Diaby shouldn't be running free at anybody at all, especially when you're doing your number at the line, right? Like, I
Mhm.
want to ask you, Brad, is that Jake Brendel? Or is that, or does Purdy even get any sort of like discussion in that? Because if I had a criticism of Purdy right now, is you need to slide your guys. Like, you need to look at the line and slide your guys and get somebody over there on that side. You can't. The way guys get hurt in this league is when a free runner's at them, and you didn't recognize that. So I want to know, who is it? Like, is it Brendel? Is it up to him? Because I just watched Jalen Hurts try to make a check at a line, and Jason Kelsey said no, 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 and then Hurts overruled him, and then Kelsey pointed to the side that they went to, and they went. I want to know if there's even some of that back and forth, like, between those two guys.
I haven't seen anything to that regard, like between Kelsey, so publicly like that, where like you could see them legitimately having a conversation in the middle of a play pre-snap. But my understanding and everything I've heard from Kyle, and we've tracked back to even Alex Mack, is that the center is calling protections. So it's up to the center to identify the mic. That's going to help dictate which is the overloaded side. Then they're going to slide protection, typically to what they perceive to be the overloaded side. But this goes back to like back when Brock Purdy first got his thrown to the fire against the Dolphins. Like, you remember that game? You remember how many free they were throwing zero blitz at him?
Zero
Remember how
blitzes.
many? Remember how many free rushers were coming at him?
Yeah,
Whether it was up the middle
didn't
with
matter.
the middle linebacker, whether it was an outside linebacker, whether there's a safety, they kept identifying where the 49ers were sliding protection, and they were dropping out to the side where they were sliding. So that meant they were overloaded on the weak side, and they were getting the numbers that they were looking for. That's been something that's been happening dating back to last year. So I don't know exactly how the defense is able to figure this out, or if there is just a legitimate tell that this offensive line group is giving when they're sliding protection. It's the same concept of Kyle Shanahan attacking defenses and their keys. There's a tell on a key that the 49ers are keying on with how they slide protection. They slide the protection and they drop out a player or two on the strong side where they're sliding the protection, and they bring numbers on the back side. And I would say Purdy has struggled more than last year actually at seeing the free rusher. I thought last year he was killing it when it came to making free rushers miss or getting out of the pocket. They've been getting home a little bit more than normal. Um, but
To
yeah,
back up
that
your point, though, also, Brad, to back up your point with statistics and what you're seeing, his
mhm.
sack percentage, it went from 5.9 to 6.5, and
So it's
he
up
went
this year.
from, yes, 11 sacks on 188 dropbacks, 20 on 310. And the sack yards have been much larger, 84 to 126. Obviously, you have 9 more sacks, but his sack percentage has gone up. So that lines up again with what you're seeing on film.
Yeah, so I don't have the answer, but it's definitely something I've identified on tape every single week that there's probably about one or two plays where the offensive line finds themselves sliding protection and they get overloaded on the weak side. So, and then that produces a free rusher, and that's where we've seen sacks against the Browns. We saw sacks last week. We've seen other instances where Purdy's been able to escape, and he hasn't been able to escape this season as much. So it's definitely a conversation, but I do see it more as if it's on Brendel making the calls, that's on Brendel. That Brendel's got to they've got to determine what the hell the defense is keying on, because clearly they keyed on something, and they're able to understand what the rules are for the 49ers offensive line and how they're triggering their sliding of protection, and they're scheming against it. And I don't know what the answers are to correct that and how to see it and make adjustments, but that's just what's happening. Um, So, but I've seen the 49ers defensive line do that a couple times, which
Yep.
I hadn't seen for a while. So I'm like, oh, I'm glad our defense is doing it. Um,
We got some super chats in here, right?
yeah, I was just about to
Let's run through.
say,
Yeah, let's run through 'em.
Jittery Jimbo lovers awfully quiet today. Is this a
It's
Jimmy
fine though.
Garoppolo slander?
Yeah, it's just like, oh my god, man. Like I hate kicking a man while he's down. Like him being benched over there is some sort of like victory lap that and shout out to Roberto, man. He's always been like good with the content, like, and he's always been supportive. It's just um it is what it is, man. I think
We've
again,
had a lot of infighting in this fan base. I think that's
yeah, but like that's the thing. It's like when any of us would ever bring up like, hey, Jimmy is a product of like what's going on, and he's done a lot of good things. We weren't short to like praise him, but he owes Kyle Shanahan some money. Like he just does. Like and that's it, man. Like what the hell? Like and that's not. But again,
you mean he got away
everybody.
with some robbery
But
there a little bit?
but everybody normally would have, man. I just don't want to pick on him, man. Look, man, good for Jimmy. He played well while he was here. He won a bunch of games. He earned a reputation. He got a bag. And you know what? The only team that was willing to give it to him was the Raiders. They deserve it. So that's fine. I'm good with that. Like, I think this is all wins across the board. I think even though Jimmy would love to be out there, he still got his bag. I don't want to crap on Jimmy, man. I really don't, man.
I appreciated Jimmy. He stressed me
Me
out
too.
times.
We
but
won games.
It was fine.
We won
Like,
games, man.
as long as we were winning, I didn't care. Like,
Dude,
honestly,
that
I was
Rams
just
game,
wanna
we're
win.
not in the playoffs. We're not in the playoffs if Jimmy doesn't throw us back into that game with his messed up shoulder, right? Like, and that last drive, like, again, there's moments where Jimmy like did his thing. It's just I don't want to crap on him, man. I really don't. He's not here
Yeah.
anymore. But again,
He
when I
didn't.
talk about Jimmy compared to Brock, it's only because the only measuring stick I have as a quarterback with this team is Jimmy Garoppolo because he's the only one who's actually sustained the offense and won games with them.
Yeah. And he's what we've known since 2017, basically. So he's a recent memory. Jamie Allen, $2 super chat. Nice.
Hell yeah.
Donation. We also got Vish saying also we got what got me convinced with Brock is the transition from college speed to NFL speed immediately processes defenses at NFL speed as a rookie. 100%.
It's important. It's important. I think people lose that. And I think that's why when you're hesitant on college quarterbacks and you're a little bit worried, you're worried about, the game is a little bit different. You're playing against kids and then you're playing against grown men. And you're playing against sophisticated defenses that show one thing, and you got guys that have closing speed that can be at the at the top of the line and then just run right back into the secondary. Those are things you don't see in college, and I think that is absolutely impressive. 100%.
Absolutely. And to bring it back to a guy like Patrick Mahomes, who the 49ers are always going to be tied to because it was Kyle Shanahan's first draft. They didn't draft a quarterback. They went Solly, blah, 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 whatever. And now, Patrick Mahomes is like partly a bane of our existence because he took a Super Bowl from us, essentially. I loved Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech. I mean, you go back, you watch Mahomes versus Baker in that shootout that they had. I mean, you could tell Patrick Mahomes had everything you could literally want physically from a quarterback. The problem with Patrick Mahomes, he played in a Cliff Kingsbury offense, which was the most elementary style offense that
ain't
you
air raid
think of.
Don Coryell despises what the air raid became under Cliff Kingsbury. Do not get it twisted.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the playbook was a coloring book or something like that. And then you transition to the NFL. That was my huge thing with evaluating Patrick Mahomes. He has everything you want physically. I don't know what the scheme transition is going to be like from being a drop back or a shotgun, like spread type quarterback going to a under center pro style West Coast type scheme. And the language barrier, all of those things of learning a complex playbook like that. I was like, I think he's a great prospect. Question mark. I literally call my my bluest of chip prospects demigods. So I called him a demigod in training because I needed to see the transition of how he picked up an NFL playbook. Tyreek Hill came out and said he thought it was a joke that they drafted him because he couldn't read a defense to save his life his rookie season.
He said he didn't learn how to read them in his third year, and I'm just like, dude, you already lit up the league, right? Like, there's just again, but the Mahomes thing is just different. It's just completely different. Like, I don't want people comparing people to Patrick Mahomes
No,
because when you look at situation, you look at what his skill set is. It's a one-of-one situation. All Andy Reid needed was a guy. Well, all any coach ever needed was a guy like that can make
well, it's
plays
just
out
a
of nothing.
generational quarterback, right?
I mean, I don't want to get mad about Monday night because I was sitting here losing it, dude. I don't know. You know what? And you know what? Credit to Patrick Mahomes because he's better than me. He is better than me. He went to the podium and said, I could have laid it out a little bit closer to MVS for the touchdown. You have got to be kidding me, dude. You have got to be kidding me. Like, it's in his hands. Oh, my God.
The point being is Brock came in way better of a spot as a processor than Patty Mahomes, in my opinion.
I think that's fair.
But in the draft process, it's the physical traits and the tools that take you up the board, right?
That's fair.
And that's why we saw Brock all the way at the bottom. He doesn't possess physical tools. He doesn't look like a guy that you'd be afraid of as a franchise quarterback.
Peter said, talking about the Chiefs, drop it. They did.
Nice. That's a good one.
That's a great one.
Bozzy says, nearly every ex-quarterback player praises Brock. Steve Young says he is an elite processor and has the force. Martz compares him to Montana. Kurt Warner compares himself to him. Brock equals Breeze play style plus Brady's backstory. Add in Russell Wilson's mobility. For me.
I mean, the legs is I've been betting his rushing over, and it seems like a safe bet. It's like 8 yards. I'm like, oh, Brock got that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like 8 yards every game. Like, I throw it into a parlay, and if I lose, whatever. But like, I think in the last 4, he's been over that. Like, and by far. Like, remember, he was the leading rusher against Cincinnati. That was easy money.
Yeah, he was cooking with his legs.
Yeah.
So he's very mobile. He's very sound in the pocket. When it comes to, obviously, we kind of alluded to they're having issues right now, kind of identifying free rushers on overload blitz scenarios.
Yeah, I want to know, but I want to know who's responsible. I want to know who's responsible.
I would bet my money it's Brendel. I don't know for a fact.
I think it is Brendel. I think it is Brendel.
Here and look you in the eye and be like, oh, it's Brendel, it's Purdy.
Yeah.
But based on how they've talked about it in the past, I would guarantee it's Brendel.
For people from the people that I trust, I ask, and they say that they don't think that Brock is in charge of that. Because I want to know, like, literally, I'm like, why is nobody identifying this free rusher? You have to remember, regardless of Brendel's age, he's in his second year as a starter, so he may not have it all the way. But it's just like Yaya Diaby should not be able to just run straight to the quarterback like that way. So somebody's got to be able to like jump in and say something. So I just wanted to know who. I don't want to put it on anybody without knowing. I would rather say I don't know than just throw it out there and say Brock's got to be better on that. I don't know if Brock's in charge of that.
I can only take from what I've learned from the past about Kyle Shanahan and his scheme, and it's typically the center, and that's typically what the center does. They're at the NFL level, it's typically the center who's kind of your quarterback of the offensive line, getting everyone on the same page, sliding protections, Ricky Lucy, doing all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Let's see what other one. Gammon says, "Thank you for tush pushing 49ers content."
Excellent, brotherly shoving it.
Gammon stays on top of it.
I love Gammon, man. That's my guy. That's my guy.
I like
Shout out to the Mouse Squad.
I like the first one that he posed
about UB Kyle, I be Wilkes.
Yeah, I like that one. That was a nice little exercise. That's how you make yourself a part of this type of content. That was a good one. Okay, Cub says, your take on why Wilkes' game planning seems sus versus Ryan's and Salah's, and will Hufanga's injury be a huge problem?
Again, I think what I kind of said last week was we gave DeMeco and Salah leeway because they were first-time play callers, but we forget that Wilkes is essentially in the same boat, possibly with a little bit more experience. Now, when you look that he's been a coach for so long, he hasn't been a play caller for all of those years. He's been a play caller for 1 or 2 of those years, right? He wasn't even a play caller in Carolina. So I think the leeway that was given to those guys, even though everybody wanted to fire all of them, remember, like, between every first half.
Yeah, we're 3 for 3 for wanting to fire
Right.
DCs.
Yeah. It's more about the expectation that the defense was going to hit the ground running under Steve Wilkes. And I think that's where the misconception is, right? Just because a guy has coached many other positions and for far longer than other guys doesn't mean that he has more experience as a play caller as those guys, because they had the same experience jumping into that. So for me right now, we're looking at, after the bye week, these last 2 weeks, the pass coverage and the front line has been married. Everything looks great. Everything looks great when it comes to that. But I do think there was an expectation that, oh, Steve Wilkes, he's experienced. He was just the head coach for the Carolina Panthers, and he was like, oh, he's a secondary guy. Everything's gonna be, but he doesn't have the play calling experience. So I think that's why, although everybody wanted to get rid of DeMeco and Saleh, early on, it's like they kind of have the same level of play calling. So I think, again, it's just more about understanding the context of what they've actually done in this league, and I think that's where we are at this point.
Yeah, I think fan perception can be our own worst enemy at times because we heap unrealistic expectations on certain situations, and then at certain times we then get disappointed about things that maybe we shouldn't get so disappointed on. But also, the situation with Wilkes, it was interesting, but it does appear that they are getting back on track. So I think that's all that matters, and it takes some time to gel, man. Like, it's just such a weird situation. I don't think people also understand. We've talked about this before, like just how it's Steve is fitting into here and their system, and not the
And
other way around. I'm not sure
and
I've
to
ever seen it like that before.
and to be fair, in 2019, Salah's defense was the reason that this team was winning games, right? It wasn't the offense. The offense caught up later on.
Yes.
DeMeco, halfway through the year, had to make adjustments. This team peaks at the same time. Always like 1-1 finally like link at the end of this time.
It's like
And
they smell December coming, and they're like,
right,
"Oh, it's Christmas time. It's time to turn it on."
And to 187's point, he's only called plays once or twice. He's only been a defensive coordinator in Cleveland at one time. And again, if you've been in Cleveland, I'm not even going to take anything that you've done there as like anything that was important. Oh, and shout out to OK Cub becoming a YouTube member. Let's go, my boy. Appreciate you, man. But when like, to Brad's point, wide nine, this defense, it's Wilkes shoehorning himself into the scheme and not implementing himself. Like, it's not him bringing something that's an overhaul. It's him trying to fit in. So when a defensive coordinator is trying to fit in with a scheme that you've already got in place, remember, Saleh leaves, DeMeco Ryans is the linebacker coach. Bring him right in, because he's all a part of it, and you just like literally understand that. Even that takes some time. But for now, it just looks like a little bit of Wilkes being shoehorned into it. So that's all I was saying. Yeah, like he has an illustrious career as a coach, as a secondary coach, as a assistant head coach, but he's only called plays 1 or 2 times in his career, and he hasn't called them in the best places. So again, like, it's closer than you think to their experience as play callers. That's all I would say.
Yeah, there's definitely an acclimation period, and we saw that. And they're still acclimating. They're still figuring it out. They've made changes out of the bye. Like, that's not a surprise. And they found success with those adjustments and changes. And that's what good coaches do. That's what good football players do. They make adjustments if things aren't working. Well, I can't believe we have a game tomorrow. I can't believe we have Thanksgiving tomorrow. My head is all twisted up like a pretzel.
Hold up, I think we got new members too.
We got more new members?
Yeah.
Where? Wait.
Let's go.
Are they the same person, or am I tripping balls?
I got a new one. I see one 614. I think OK Cub. Yep. There you go. Let's go.
This one?
Yep.
Okay,
that one's new. And I think we got a new one too at 615. I think he just subbed to you.
Oh, we got see, that's how you do it, because we're dual streaming on both channels. You showing love to both channels. That's a win. Appreciate you, man, for becoming a member on both our channels. That's
hell yeah,
awesome. And shout out to all you guys, man, because it's week 12.
Hold up, real quick, Brad. Real quick.
Go,
I hate to hijack this. Go. Score prediction. Go. Do it.
Oh, geez. I haven't even thought about
Just
it.
do it. We haven't even talked about the Seahawks. Seahawks.
I know.
Just do it.
Just do it. Score prediction. I'm going to go 31-21. 49ers.
30-17 49ers. Jake Moody eats a big, huge turkey leg that's like the size of a Flintstone in the middle of the field. 30. The 49ers absolutely make a statement, and we absolutely leave these guys in the dust. Am I anxious? Of course, but my football mind and my football heart lets me know that this team is better than them. They are playing better than they are. Let's go, 49ers. This is the one. I need this one more than I need oxygen.
We need to lock down first place in the NFC West. We need to re-secure dominance over the Seattle Seahawks, and the Bird Gauntlet starts now. 5 bird teams in a row after this. And it starts with Seattle. Hopefully we're eating some turkey on the 50 because I still remember when they did that to us. How dare the Seahawks post that image and give me
and you know what's funny is they're going back to that as if we didn't win the NFC West on them in 2019 and we didn't go in there on Thursday night. They're like, last time we played on Thanksgiving. I'm like, bro, my daughter wasn't even born then. Like, I don't care. Like, who cares? Like, well, not that who cares because I'm definitely got PTSD, but it's crazy that you got to reach so far back. You got to reach so far back because you know for a fact now that team is not the Richard Sherman ain't walking through that door, pal. And if he was, he'd probably be wearing red and gold. Russell Wilson ain't walking through that door to help you. Neither is Marshawn. So it's funny that they post all that about that time, but they forgot the Greenlaw stop. They forgot the 49ers winning and destroying them on Thursday, winning the NFC West. Get out of here, man. Get out of here.
Hey, let's go. We got another duel.
Oh, let's go.
Member. Let's go. That's a spicy squad member right there.
Let's
go. Love to see it.
Appreciate it, man.
Man, you're right, man. We got to get this dub. Got to make it 3-0, and we got to build that momentum going into the mini bye before Eagles week. Ooh. So, all right. I hope you enjoy your time with your family. I hope everyone who's watching enjoys their time with the family as we get prepared to eat and watch 49ers.
Another super chat. We got to get out of here, man. We got to close.
They're going to stop sending the super chats. I got to get out of here.
10-day rest for the Eagles mini bye, right? And I wrote an article today on Niners Nation about, and you guys should go and put your survey in. What will the 49ers record be through the Bird Gauntlet, as Brad has called it? 5-0, 4-1, 3-2, whatever it is. Either way, it is Seattle, Philly, Seattle, Arizona, Baltimore. 5 straight weeks of bird teams. What's going to be the number? Shout out to Robin. Thank you for the donation.
Got to cook those birds, baby. The Bird Gauntlet is upon us, and it's time to feast on some winged
animals. Oh, my God. All right, close it out. Close it out.
Oh, you guys have a phenomenal Thanksgiving. We will see you guys next week. Obviously, we'll have our content and all that good stuff probably during the game, after the game, because we are content degenerates and we can't stay away.
Yep. I'm working on Thanksgiving. I'm not hanging out with my family. I don't even know them. I don't even know who they are.
I'm out here scheduling like, okay, when do I got to do this? When do I got to do that? I got to eat, got to do that. So appreciate everyone, as always, for tapping in to State of the Franchise. Shout out to the new members. Appreciate every single person who sent a super chat. We really, really do appreciate it. And again, Michael says, thankful for Brad
Mike.
and Jason. We're thankful for all you guys.
Enjoy your time with your family, buddy. Everybody enjoy your time with your family, man. Don't take it for granted. We're only here for a certain amount of times. Look, when you get it, always Skip Bayless. Richard Sherman today finally fried him. Like, he cooked him today and said, oh, well, he's like, I've been covering the game for as long as you're born. He goes, I've played the game. He was like, so don't raise your voice to me. That's what Richard Sherman said today. But yeah, man.
Yeah, they're getting
Look,
a little spicy. They're spicy for sure.
oh yeah, the honeymoon's over. The honeymoon is over. Now Richard, like Sherman's back to the thing. But like everybody, make sure you guys hang out with your family, enjoy your time with your family. We only have a certain amount of time with people. I don't want to get too sentimental, but make sure that you hug your people, hang out with them, enjoy football all day. The Lions play at noon on my side, as they always do. Enjoy your football, and we'll be back to talk with you guys, especially right after the game. Right after the game.
Yep, absolutely. Appreciate all y'all. And have a good Thanksgiving. Jason, always a pleasure. State of the franchise next Wednesday as we preview the Eagles. We'll have pretty much the whole Seattle game wrapped up by that point. So it will be, I would assume, an Eagles-centric show. So looking forward to it. Appreciate all you guys. We're out of here. State of the franchise out. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now.